Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another advanced guide. Today we're going to be talking about the BV p212.03. Alright, so I've had this plane for a little bit now. I'm a little hesitant to take it up to the tier 10 considering the plane changes completely from the previous iteration once you do that, and I'm not sure I'm really wanting to go that route, but the 212 is just an amazing plane. In keeping with what we've been doing in the last two videos, we're going to do an advanced guide here. So what is an advanced guide, you might ask? Well, a little bit of tips, tricks. We're going to stop things. That way you can kind of see what's going on and get a much better feel for how the plane actually is. All in all, I think the 212 is an amazing plane that has a lot of versatility in many different ways. Alright, now we're going to be focusing on one aspect of that versatility, and that is an air dominance fighter or defensive fighter. So what that actually means is you take and hold critical areas, and then you defend that area against any threat that comes in there. Now, this may seem very boring, and truth be told, it is an extremely boring concept. However, as more people are playing this game and they get up to these higher tiers and we start getting a higher population in the tier 8, 9, and 10, certain playstyle dynamics are definitely going to start emerging. This is a conversation I've had with several people, including my normal wingmate, Purple, as well as a lot of the more seasoned veterans on the Discord. And what we've determined is that once the population reaches a healthy amount to where tiers 8, 9, and 10 are going to be 5, 6, or even higher, player versus player, certain combat doctrines are going to have to be adopted. And I'm going to give you a little preview of what that's going to basically look like. Now, we're going to do this exactly like we did the other videos. So we're going to go over my build, which you may or may not agree with, the equipment choices we took, which again, you may or may not agree with, consumables, crew skills, things of that nature. And then we're going to go watch some footage and kind of highlight the do's and don'ts, because in this footage there are a couple don'ts there and a couple reactionary things that didn't pan out nearly as good, but sometimes taking that chance is actually worthwhile. Just a little heads up, the footage you're going to see is ace gameplay footage. Yes, that's 20 planes killed. And full disclosure here, a good amount of those were bomber wings. I think like 8 of them were bomber wing planes that were taken down. So 8 out of 22, still not bad. Alright, so let's get to this, shall we? Alright, so the 212 is an amazing plane. When fully upgraded, you get these wonderful 213 20mm cannons, which I'm going to tell you right now are just amazing. These are basically the same cannons you had on the 210, except for you get one more. And of course, they're cowling mounted, which makes aiming them a dream, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so gun armament wise, we get basically a 34. Not a huge amount, okay, but it's a decent amount. And these are some pretty fantastic 20mm cannons. Now, when you look at the other weaponry here, we are running the R4M rockets. These are air-to-air rockets. Now, if you want to play it more as a multi-role, being able to attack ground stuff, as well as, you know, shoot down other planes, then obviously you're going to want to get the WGR 210s, which, guys, they're not bad. They're not bad at all. Rocking a 2000 damage and 55 damage radius, which is pretty decent, and you get 4 of those, okay? So this could actually really help out in clearing off some decent structures there. About all 4 of these could take out a middle structure if aimed properly. This won't do anything to the big structures like on a mine or anything. It'll clear off some of them, but it won't be enough to actually capture the whole thing. But personally, I find that this sort of playstyle for this plane is actually counterproductive, considering energy loss and its ability to operate at low altitudes kind of does suffer quite a bit. So personally, I like the whole air-to-air rockets. It's a lot of fun, and it's also the same kind of build that the guy in a previous video was trying to use against me and then called me a cheater. So I figured, hey, let's go ahead and stick with what works. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got the plane fully upgraded, you know. Alright, so let's go back to some of the stats here. We've got survivability here. We're rocking 399 hit points. Some of this is because of the equipment we are using. All right, keep that in mind. Next up, we've got airspeed. Well, guess what, guys? This thing has a top speed at 915 and a max dive speed of 1040. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can hit these quite easily. All right, if you're up there and you're pounding the hell out of like bombers and heavy fighters up there, and then you see a ground attack low on the deck, if you're dropping down and boosting, you will break 1K. I am not even kidding. It is hilarious. All right, next up, we've got maneuverability here. Okay, well, guess what? It has a 10-second 360 turns. So that's actually pretty damn huge, right? A multi-roll with 10 is considered to be a very maneuverable plane. What makes this even better is when you start looking at the tiers 8, 9, and 10 maneuverability, very few planes have anything better than 10, with the exception of the Japanese key lines and a couple of Russian lines. But for the most part, almost everything else is around 10 or 11 to 13. So you get a huge advantage in this right there in maneuverability. Your rate of roll is 180 degrees a second. Yeah, this thing flips over quite easily. It's really hilarious watching this thing spin around in the air. Optimum airspeed is about 525, and that's pretty honest. Stall speed of 220. This is one that's going to screw with you a lot if you're not using your energy correctly. When you're trying to go from like a mid-altitude and then you're trying to go ballistic to catch that bomber that's way up high. Yeah, this is the number you got to pay attention to, 220. As you get to about 250, you're going to want to level out that flight a bit and regain some energy. All right, just telling you right now. And then, of course, altitude performance of 2,000. Now, a lot of people think this might be a little too low. But seriously, 2,000 is actually a really good area for this plane to play. Most of the time, your combat area is going to be somewhere around 2,500 to 1,500, maybe a little higher when you're dealing with bombers, actually extremely higher when you're dealing with bombers. So this is actually pretty damn decent. And guys, just to let you know, having these air rockets here does not diminish any sort of maneuverability or speed off the plane. This was a change they made in 2.0.2. So, woohoo, plane's even better. All right, so let's talk about equipment now, shall we? Now, we're a jet, and we like being fast, so engine tuning is always going to be the first thing that goes on there. Matter of fact, this is a pretty much standard build for multi-rolls and fighters. You got your engine tuning, you got your improved covering to add a little bit more life, as well as protect your wing and tail a little bit, which, considering a majority of your plane is a wing and a tail, makes a lot of sense. We got the lightweight airframe, which gives us a little bit more maneuverability. 3% may not be a huge amount, but it does add up. All right, going on to crew skills, because this is quite important. Now, this is only a 7-point. We do technically have an 8th point, but there's nothing I really want to invest it in at this time. When we get maybe 2 points total available, we might change that around to a couple different things. So let's get to the build as we have it. All right, so as you got into 210, you probably had to retrain your crew almost instantly, just so you can take advantage of the Expert Rocketeer. So what does this skill do? Well, it makes those air-to-air rockets track a little bit. Not a great amount, but a little bit. You still have to be roughly on target for it to kind of converge them in. This makes shooting anything that's charging at you head-on a lot more simpler. Just telling you right now. It's actually probably the easiest way of getting rocket kills on them. If you're trying to shoot something that is in front of you and moving kind of in the same direction, you're going to want to lead ahead of it as well as be at above it as well. So to ensure that those rockets will actually impact. An Expert Rocketeer will help ensure that happens. If you're at level flight on the tail, this tends to not work nearly as well. Mostly because, you know, crafty pilots who have a rear gunner and you are watching you fire these things can easily start moving left and right and mitigate a good amount of those actually tracking onto them, like I do. All right, so you're definitely going to want to get Expert Rocketeer. It makes everything in this build just so much better. Next up you want to get is probably either the Engine Guru or the Aerodynamics Expert. Now, some of you might be going, well, Shiv, why the Aerodynamics Expert? That really doesn't make any sense. Well, okay, here's the thing. Engine tuning and the lightweight airframe are both in there, so adding 40% onto that made a lot of sense, right? So that's going to make that a little bit better. Now, when we get another point here, we're going to be definitely looking at Aerobatics Expert to increase our maneuverability another 2%, and thus make this plane even more agile in the sky. All right, there you go. Now, other lines of thought you could possibly go with this is maybe you want to make those guns really accurate. But guys, I'm here to tell you, cowling mounted 20 millimeters tend to be extremely accurate. So adding any more accuracy on that just seems a little silly and wasteful in points that could definitely be used to make you a little bit more survivable. And if you don't want to go that route, then of course there's always Engine Guru 2, which will cost you 3 total points. But you will gain a little bit more speed, and, you know, as a jet, speed is everything. Alright, so let's talk about services and consumables. So in this plane, like most planes, I do run universal ammo. It is a little bit expensive, and I will be the first to admit it does cost you a little bit of money. But guys, when you're just completely wrecking everything on an enemy plane, that universal ammo really helps out. The increased chance of critical damage, the increased chance of fires, component damage, things of that nature can definitely pay off dividends, hands down. And considering how you're supposed to kind of play the variant I'm going to show you here, it makes perfect sense, all right? You're an air dominance defense fighter. You stop people from being able to come in there and do things, all right? So you're hunting bombers, you're hunting heavy fighters, and occasionally multi-roles and fighters as well. I would highly recommend ignoring ground attack if at all possible. And the reason why I say that is ground attacks tend to be, well, energy wasters, bullet soaks, and munition soaks. They're very, very hard, and going after them one-on-one with this plane can sometimes be really crappy. At Tier 9, you're talking about a 400 hit point plane going after something with about 2,600 life. Yeah, it's doable, but it's not the easiest trick to pull off, okay? So, well, yes, you can do it. It's probably going to be more advantageous for you to deal with targets that are much higher up, that are within your optimum performance altitudes. Okay, so let's talk about consumables. We're using a pretty generic consumable loadout here. We've got the first aid dressing because when the pilot is knocked out, your rockets go crappy, your guns can't aim nearly as well, so that's kind of problematic. Got the pneumatic restarter because, as you can see, the center point of our plane is a freaking engine, all right? And if anybody's aiming for the cockpit, 9 times out of 10, they're going to hit the engine. And if they're on your tail, they're going to hit your engine. So being able to restart your engine is pretty much crucial to your survival. Highly recommend picking this up. And of course, we got the fire extinguisher because we only have 400 points of life. And it's really difficult to justify not taking it because everybody's running universal ammo. So the likelihood that you're going to catch on fire is pretty high. All right, it's pretty damn high. So being able to put that out will help mitigate any continuous damage from fires and allow you to stay in the battle just a little bit longer. And again, it's a personal preference. If you don't want to take that, then you could obviously take the reinforced control surfaces and gain a quick boost of turning. Though, truth be told, this plane doesn't really play as a turn fighter. It's more of an energy fighter for all intents and purposes. But you could go that route. Or you could take something else like, you know, anything that increase XP or credit income or so on and so on and so on. All right. So anyway, guys, that is the build. That's some of the stats and everything on it. So now let's go and check out some footage. Now, just a warning here. This is a defeat, but it was a pretty close defeat, and there was a lot of great things that happened there and a lot of bad things that happened in there, and we're going to, you know, go through it piece by piece. So let's get to that. All right, so here we are. Now, this is a 4-point map, which means there's a couple different strategic decisions you got to make right away on how you're going to approach this. Now, just heads up and complete honesty here. I'm the only player on my team. The enemy team has 2 players. Yeah, I got the short end of the stick there. Now, knowing this, I'm going to have to play this extremely defensively and try to pull off some shenanigans within the squall in order to make this a more balanced game for me. It doesn't quite work out that way, but we have a phenomenal game, and I kind of want to use this as a training tool because I think it's very apt for what we're trying to explain here. Alright, so, strategic-wise, there are 2 points we could go to right away. We can go to the command center and basically beat up on some heavy fighters over there and hope that our team is able to capture there. Or we can go to the airfield, cap that, and then move on to their command center that they're trying to take. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a firm believer of counter-capping somebody. So if you can engage them while they're trying to cap something and you slow that process down, that allows the rest of your team to actually take an advantage there. This is an ideal situation. This is something that me and Purple do all the freaking time and to some great success. Unfortunately, Purple's not here, and I'm by myself against 2 total players. Kinda sucks. But we're gonna try this either way, so let's get to this. Alright. So we're gonna head to the airfield here. Now, there's a mistake and a positive here that we're doing. We're boosting forward, but we're not really going for, you know, gaining high altitude. That is kind of a mistake in some regards. I'm using the level flight to basically gain some speed initially, but one of the big advantages that the 212 has is its ability to fight at a much higher altitude than a lot of the planes and the amount of performance gains it gets there. Well, yes, I am gaining a significant amount of speed here. The fact is, I'm going to have to tilt up a bit in order to fight anything. Thus, any of that speed I'm gaining initially is going to drop off significantly and force me to use boost a little bit more frequently than I probably should. But in this instance, it actually works out. However, again, energy management is something you guys are going to have to pay attention to. Alright. So we've cut back on the boost, and we've got our level flight, and we're just looking to see where everything is. Now, at the altitude I'm at right here, this is normally where you'd find your fighters for your air defense fighters. But you'll notice there's blips up higher. Well, those are the heavy fighters. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now that the 212 is a heavy fighter killer. Hands down. The 2020s do a very good job of it. The rockets make any sort of head-on pass that a lot of heavy fighter players, bots, and or air defense fighters love to do. Just the suicide run. And we're going to play to that quite nicely. So we're going to tilt up here. And we're going to go for this one right here. There is the second one. And generally I say you should always go for the second one. But considering I'm coming from below and going up, not necessarily as needed. So as you see here, we're kind of getting the lead. We're slightly off from the center point here, but we're going to be maneuvering it back over to the center as we're closing the distance. Now, that initial salvo, that was 220 damage. We busted an engine, and we're already flipping to get on his tail. Now, 410s do have some rear guns, but they're 50 caliber guns. Not overly that big of a deal. And somebody else took a chunk of them there. And there our guns are going, finishing the job. Now, the accuracy of that second attack on it wasn't very good. We were mostly hitting the aft section of the plane. If we were leading a little bit more, it would have taken way less ammunition to kill. But it is what it is. He's dead. Now we're maneuvering on to our next target. So here we go. We have 2 air defense fighters that are about 700 away from us, below us, and we've got these 2 up here at 850 and 921. Now, thought process here is I don't really want to drop down below where I'm at. I want to fight these planes in a more level flight, and as I can see, this guy is coming up, which means he's losing energy on this climb. To me, this is an ideal target, okay? If I go after the 736-1 that's down on the bottom left there, he's just going to bank turn and gain energy and kind of make my life a little hell. While, yes, I am gaining energy as well, he would technically still have the energy advantage where I would not. So I'm going to go after the one that is bleeding energy to where I will guarantee have the advantage. And as you can see, he died pretty quickly. Now, we had to heat our guns all the way to full in order to kill him, but that's just kind of the name of the beast when going after fighters. Their maneuverability and small size does make hitting them a little bit of an issue with the 212. But it worked. Nice little plume right there. Always fun to see. Now, we're going to counter-rotate this way. We're also going to boost, and we're coming down on this other one that is just below us. Now, again, we have the energy advantage. And as you can see here, we got a really healthy lead on it. A little too much, but then we start backing it off, and he just falls apart. just fell apart. Now, looking for other targets, we end up capping the point, so now we're going to be heading to the other area, and I'm not going to make the same mistake that I made before of, just resting at about 1200. Instead, I'm looking to go about 1700. That's going to be my more ideal engagement zone. So we're coming in, and we're looking around. We're letting our boost basically kick back up. And we've got bombers. Bombers are annoying. Alright, so we're going to have to basically climb very, very high. We're going to be burning a lot of energy and our boost in order to maintain this. And lo and behold, here comes this heavy fighter. This is something I'm going to be wanting to watch. And we've got other planes down below us. We're going to have air defense fighters coming down below us. Now, if you take a look at the minimap, we only have 2 other planes coming in to assist us. I'll tell you right now, one of them's a heavy fighter. I don't know what the other one is. Everybody else, on the other hand, is heading to the command center that is ours. They're going to go over there and try to take it. Now, ideally, I should have probably gone to that command center initially to ensure that we got it, so we had the offense going right away. But I didn't. So as you can see here, we're kind of leading on this RB-17. And you see, we've already got 400 damage on him. I'll tell you right now, bombers are so easy just to rack up damage on because they're so big. It's really hard not to hit them. It really is hard not to hit them. But you're still going to want to lead the target as much as feasibly possible. And as you can see there, our shots are hitting right in the midsection between the wings and the fuselage. That's probably going to be your sweet spot on bombers because that's like the biggest surface area you can get. So hitting right there means your shots are almost always going to land. They may not be overly ideal, but we already took out the pilot in our initial spray, so his ability to bomb and or use his front gun is kind of crap right now. Now, as we're turning in, you'll notice our guns have cooled down completely. That's one of the upsides here. Yes, your guns heat up pretty fast, but they cool down just as fast. Alright, so we did basically a nice little strafe from left to right in our gunnery on there, not sitting on its tail. This is just something that I do quite often when I'm dealing with anything that I know has a good, rear turret. That thing has a 23mm cannon. So, yeah, I'm not really wanting to sit on its tail. Okay, so we're looking for another target, and we've got a heavy fighter there, and we've got a heavy fighter basically flipping over us. So, we're actually doing a little bit turning mechanics here. While we are not the greatest turner at turn, or at tier 9, we're actually pretty comparable to a lot of planes. So, being able to go on a turn against a heavy fighter is kind of ideal. That's the one thing that we outturn hands down, other than bombers and ground attacks. So our initial salvo put a fire, he put it out. We're hitting mostly in that center area and just completely neutralizing him quite nicely. Now you did notice a little bit of a spray there from his rear guns. He does have quite a few of them. And here we are going after another heavy fighter. I've said this time and time again, the 212 is a heavy fighter killer, and you're going to see why here in a second. Now, ideally, I want to get to an attack angle to where he is going to be forced to commit to a head-on. Now, in general, when a heavy fighter goes for a head-on, this is where you as a fighter say, no. Or if you're a multi-role, you go, no. You basically bank and drop down hard, and then you counter-bank the other direction to kind of shake off the heavy fighter. However, in the 212, you say, bring it. And let me show you why. We're at 747 meters right now. This is about where your air rockets are really, really good. From there to 500 is where you're going to want to be throwing these out as you're doing head-ons. And now we threw all 3 and just completely decimated him. General rule of thumb is I only had to hit this twice in order to kill him. But I've had many times where I've done this and the Rocketeer skill didn't engage quite as much, or maybe when I launched him, my wings were at a slightly off angle, whatever, and it didn't quite kill him, and I died with that last salvo on my wing because he just rammed right through me. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a horrible feeling, okay? Don't be afraid to use all your rockets, and I'll tell you why right now. They reload fast. Alright, so we burnt that last one, And I'm looking for a target, and I see a player ground attack. It's the 1099. But we're also under fire from some air defense fighters. We got this one diving down on us. I'm not looking to really engage him too much, but I really don't have much of a choice. Get a nice little scissoring there. We got a little bit of damage, not much. Alright, so burning some energy off while he's gaining it. But I am about as maneuverable as he is, if not more. And here we are. We've got the lead as he's curving back in. And look where that impact is, ladies and gentlemen. That is dead center mass, cockpit, wings. Very nicely hitting. And he just goes kaboom, vaporizes, and we take the point. And this is kind of ideal. Unfortunately, they took the other command center pretty quickly. We've got a plane on our tail, so I'm basically doing a little bit of maneuvering, getting out of there. But I want to put some damage on these bombers because that's a threat. And again, we're an air defense fighter. So we need to make sure that we are engaging anything that is a threat to any of our points. That's kind of the idea here. Now, look at that, guys. Opening salvo, damn near killed it. We killed the engine. Huge amounts of damage right there. Like I said, it's hard not to hit a bomber. Now, coming up from underneath them and hitting them like this, you're going to get so much more damage considering the profile of where you're hitting there. The amount of surface area for your guns to impact is increased. Ideally, going from the top is also pretty ideal. Now, we're starting to take some damage from these rear guns. Now, you notice we use rockets to kill one, but we're not going to get the Rocketeer. As you see there, didn't get it. Yeah, it took out the bomber, but we got nothing else from there. So that's kind of a wasted rocket usage, but again, bombers can be a really serious threat. You need to handle them as quickly as possible, and that's what we're doing. Not to mention, as we're killing them above our point, it's kind of advantageous. Okay, so we took a lot of damage from those rear guns, and we're like, nope, I got to get out of there. Everybody else can kind of finish this off. So as I'm basically pointing down and regaining my energy, I see we have a 10 or the 1099 B2 in front of us, and it's the player. Well, he's already under some pretty heavy attack. We're going to basically add in here and basically gun him down. We got the lead, and kaboom. Just that simple. Now we have another target. We have a J7. Our initial salvo took out his engine and did a huge chunk of damage. Huge chunk of damage. So we're gonna basically circle around him. His engine has been neutralized, so he's lost a lot of his mobility, but he gets it back in right as I'm coming onto his tail. Somebody else finishes him off as the other heavy fighter we have with us, so good job on him. Alright, so now we're pointing up. We're looking for this heavy fighter here. As you see here, we're shooting before we're within range. Now some people might say, oh, that's a wasted shot. No, not really. You're still going to hit, maybe not nearly as impactful, but it will possibly cause damage. And as we're closing on him, because we got this lead, it's going to start increasing the damage as we get there. And you notice we're pulse firing. When you're doing long range shots like that, don't hold down the trigger. Pulse, 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 until you actually find that sweet spot of where you're hitting quite often. Now, if it's against the player, the moment you start doing that and you get those hits, they're probably going to bank off in another direction, which might suck, but at least your guns aren't overheated, so you can kind of start doing some air-to-air fighting and continuing with those pulse shots and probably take them out. Alright, so we're looking here. We've got two targets coming in, one of which is a heavy fighter, one of which is a bomber. So we're going to gain some altitude so we can engage both. Ideally, I should be going after this heavy fighter. Now, as you can see here, we're getting the lead ready. It's not too much of a lead. We should probably lead just a little bit more, but we still got some distance, so we can kind of counteract this a little bit. There we go. That's much more ideal. And you notice, we got the engine taken out, we put a fire on him, and we had a good chunk of damage that was being constant going, and here came the heavy fighter, threw a big salvo at him, took out most of his life, and our constant stream of 20s finished him off. Again, teamwork. All right, and there's the Lambert medal, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're going after this RB-17. Now remember what I said before, attacking from underneath something tends to pay out some pretty huge dividends. So we did 429 on there. Not ideal, but pretty good. Then we're hitting about where I consider, oh shit, we're going to be stalling soon, I need to go into level flight, which for me is about 240, 250, somewhere in there, because your stall is 220. So I always keep that number in mind, and when I see we're near there, I automatically put myself into a level flight. That way I don't stall out, because stalling out in any plane is pretty detrimental, especially in something that is an egg with wings. Alright, so we're maintaining here. We're going to boost just to kind of rise up and prevent the stalling as we're doing what we're doing here. Got a little bit of overheat pulse firing here, but that's fine. And we take him out. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. We have bombers coming in at us. Alright, so we're angling right back down. We're going after them. We don't have to use boost, but we are just to kind of, speed up the process here. And look at that. Our angle plus that little bit of boost is pushing us well over 600. We're going to get over 700 here really quickly. Alright, finish off him. Finish off him. And again, feasting on easy targets is always ideal. He's gone too. Now, I don't want to be accidentally shooting my teammate there or ramming into him, so we're going to vector off here real quick and then come at it with a different angle. And as you can see there, we didn't vector off too much. Alright? Didn't vector off too much. So we're going to go after this target. It's the closest, and it's also got the most life, as you're about to see. And just took it out. And protected our airbase yet again. I really should be going down to that airbase and getting a heal, but I think they just actually took out our repair station, which happens quite often on this map, so I've learned to not rely on it. Hands down, not to rely on it. It's just, it happens. But we are hitting the squall line, so I really should have been considering suiciding here just to come back in full health. That was a mistake on my part, but again, I was doing a count here, and we're really close to 20. I have not gotten an ace in this plane yet, and that's the only thing that's like on my mind right now, is getting the ace. And yep, chasing down the RB-17 yet again. We've been doing nothing but just beating up on those two different RB-17s. And of course, here we are going after this bomber wing that's coming in. Kind of seems like deja vu. Alright, so we're beating up on their bombers. We're coming in now for our attack, and here we go. We take him out, and we're going to come here. Now, we actually did get a little bit of a damage there. We did not get the kill on it, but that's fine. And again, wasted rockets to some degree, some people might argue. For me, personally, they reload fast. I don't really care. And we're going to go on here and try to take him out. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Our first ace in a 2-1-2. Joy! And we're also over 12,000 combat points. And we have basically been able to main these two sections the entire game. Now, if I had more human players, this would have been ideal. But now we're in the squall line. Okay, so a couple different things here you should consider. One, don't go on the attack when there's a squall. That's generally never a good idea. And me, I'm heading right towards the big swarm here. But I see this 1056, and I know that I'm going to have my rockets up here just in time to take him out. I could easily take him out and kind of return back to a safe position, but I choose to do something dumber. Alright. So I'm considering rotating back out of here, but I see a P-51 coming in, and if I don't engage him, he's going to sit on my tail and take me out. I'm only 144 health. That's not that hard for a P-51 to do. He's also at 140 some odd health, so actually no, he's slightly above that. Alright, so we're doing this nice little scissor combat, and we get the wing here. And as you see, we're going to try to do another strafe across here. This way we're hitting like engine, cockpit, and midsection tail as we're coming across. Ideally, we're hoping to do enough cause fires to take him out of the game. And we did rotate through that turn to basically try to hold it on him a little bit longer. And we got him down to 5. But we were not able to seal the deal. which is always very, very frustrating. And we did take out his pilot, so his gunnery is absolutely crap. But we line up and get the hit. But then we're under fire, and there's not much I could really do about this because it's a player. Yep. Lamb eater. Got me. Really, really sad. But alright, so here we go. We did 14,840 CP. We got 1,140 mastery here. We actually had 2 Rocketeers. We got the Conqueror, we got the Ace, we got the Wing Legend, we got the Lambert Medal. And we only lost by 9 points, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, those close battles really, really hurt, especially when you have phenomenal games like this. Now, I know some of you are going to say, Shiv, you just took out a lot of freaking bombers to get that ace. I only killed 8. Alright, because I was playing to the role I am meant to do, air dominance and defensive fighter. Yes, I killed 8 bombers, but we killed 22 total planes that game. So, that doesn't even make up half. I'm just saying right now, doesn't make up half. And we did kill 1 real player, and we took out a bunch of the bot players and air defense fighters as well. So, I mean, it was a pretty solid game all around. But hopefully, guys, this will give you an idea of what to expect when you play the 2-2. Maybe some of this will actually be helpful, maybe some of it won't, who knows. I definitely want to do another video on the 2-1-2 involving rocket usage, but that's a way more in-depth strategy than I have time to do right now, so we'll get to that later on. But guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like these videos, please like, subscribe, leave me comments down below, ask questions. I love getting those questions and comments and responding back to it. It makes me feel really good. Anyway, till next time, it's Shiv saying stay safe, have fun, and our Jesus bless you. Peace.